Hey guys, Sandy here, and today I am participating in the Scrappy Sisters Scrappy September. My prompt for the day is hoarder. So I pulled out some things that I've had in my stash for a pretty long time. One is this Tim Holtz grunge board, which I don't even think they make anymore, but I love this stuff and pull it out very sparingly. So, and as you can see, I got plenty of it to use. And then I also pulled out my brads and eyelets in rainbow colors. So I'm going to use a bunch of these as well. Let's see what I can do. There we go. So here we are starting out with this great cut file, and this is a cut file that I received from the Kreative Kuts Club. It was designed by Christina, and something really cool, those little circles are the perfect size for flare badges. Now I'm not going to be putting flare badges in mine, but just in case you decided you needed this cut file in your life, that's just a fun little tip for you. So I'm going to add adhesive to the solid parts of the cut file and just really figure out where it's going to be on the page and how I'm going to get it to stick down. So using my ATG, loving it. I know where my photo is going to be as well. And it's important for me to determine where the photo is going to be because I don't want to spend the time filling the cut file with stuff when you're not even going to be able to see it. Now this little 6x6 paper here is from Brutus Monroe, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I decided to go with the blue and green just because I felt like it was a great combo to go with, and I didn't want to go with the traditional red and green, so I figured blue and green would be perfect. I popped it up on some unfun foam, and that's just to give it a little bit of lift off the page so everything isn't feeling so flat. Now I don't know why I was so worried about that because I'm putting a lot of texture on this page, so I really didn't have to worry about things being flat, but I do like the way the photo is lifted up off the cut file. Now I went into my stash for some thickers, and I'm spelling out the word Lego. That's because if you can't tell, in that photo is a Lego advent calendar. So last Christmas I was having a little bit of a rough time. It was Chloe's last true Christmas at home before she went off to school, and you know, Alex was coming home, maybe coming home, who knows what in the world was happening, and I was having a minor empty nest almost meltdown moment. So my husband brought home this Lego advent calendar for a little bit of happy for me, and it really did bring me some joy at the beginning of the month. So that was awesome, and I'm just going to document that here with this layout. So I have pulled out a bunch of large brads. I also pulled out an epoxy badge here. It's got trees on it and it says adventure. And while it is probably geared toward, you know, some sort of outdoorsy adventure, camping, hiking, that kind of thing, I felt with the trees it worked for Christmas, and it works for Lego adventure too. Now I am just figuring out which colors I want where, and I'm trying to get them centered enough so that they each have some of the white cut file sticking out from behind them. Now the good thing about brads is you can always stretch your little hole that you have poked through to just give it a little bit of extra play, and the brad tines on the back hold it into place as long as your hole isn't like an inch long or something like that. Otherwise it's gonna slide around in that hole. So I've pulled out the grunge board now, and this is something that I got on clearance a long time ago, and I just have a bunch of packs of it, and I really like it. I don't pull it out all that often. It has been a while since I've used it on a layout, at least a good 6 months or more, so I figured it was definitely time to use some of that stuff. So I pulled out the numbers 25, even though the calendar has 24 and you can see it in the photo. There are 25 days until Christmas, so you know, with that calendar the last day is Christmas, so you don't need to open a door, I guess. But anyway, the 25 works for me. It's the way I'm going with it. Now I've pulled off some of these little scrolly bits, and I think I pull off enough, but I realize quickly that I don't. Now I almost pulled out this book plate, and because I really like the way it nestled right there over top of the photo, but it was very square, and everything on here so far is very circular and has curves, so I decided not to go with that. So as you can see, I've only pulled out a couple bits of grunge board. I will pull out more. So I decided to bring in the green at this point. So these larger brads are not as large as the bluey colored ones that I have going on there. Now I decide that adventure is going right there. I'm not going to overlap it over top of the cut file like I had originally planned. So I use some Nouveau Deluxe Adhesive to get that stuck down. And then I'm just going to start adding in some of these larger brads. And I wanted to bring in the larger pieces really before I got into too many of the smaller brads that I'm going to pull out, just to give it a little bit more balance, and it would kind of give me like a vision of where I was going with this. Now my original plan was to fill every single one of these circles, but that did not happen. So here I've pulled out more of the grunge board, and I'm just using some Brewery's heavy duty or heavy body acrylic paint in gold, and I absolutely love this gold color. It is just a nice, bright, gorgeous, just a gorgeous gold color. It doesn't have any like brassy undertones to it or anything like that. It's just a really good gold. Now these little extra grunge board pieces, I popped out the little holes and such things, and then I laid down my paint, and I'm just going to paint. Just going to paint them all up. Not going to make you watch me do that. It did take me a little bit to get it done, because I did make sure to paint around all of the edges so you wouldn't see any of the raw grunge board. Now I'm using my Deluxe Adhesive again. It's just a really awesome adhesive. If you like wet adhesive, this is one to try. I never really was a fan of wet adhesive and never stuck with any, but this one, I've told you guys before, I love it. It just is an awesome liquid adhesive to use. So I'm just adding those little bits that I colored gold, or painted gold rather, around the cut file. And I'm trying to spread it around so that there's gold throughout the entire page. I don't want the gold to be too heavy in one place or too light in another. I just want it to kind of have this balance. Now I do not add any on the lower underneath of the photo. Like there's no gold under the photo. There is some around it up at the top, but I decided that the yellow that was showing in the photo represented that golden color enough, and if I put more over there, it would be like gold in your face in that corner, and nobody needs gold in your face in your lower left hand corner of your layout. Now I'm going to take these little hearts here and double them up. And my vision for how this layout is going to go is definitely evolving while I'm doing it. So while I am figuring out where these pieces go, and I put that arrow there because I really like the way the book plate looked there, but you know, the book plate didn't cut it, so put the arrow there instead. Now, originally I was thinking the only thing that was really going to overlap was probably the wings, and maybe some of the scrolly bits, and it was okay if the wings overlapped because that was where the journaling was going to go, and I was just going to highlight that a little bit. But I decided instead that I really liked the look of the gold pieces overlapping the messy circles and hitting it like 2 or more circles in one fell swoop. I just decided I really like the look of that, and I put this star up here kind of outside of the circles a little bit, because I have stuff going on outside of the circles down on the lower left hand side of the page, so I wanted to balance that out by having something up on the upper right hand side. Now that is it. There isn't going to be anything else except for one small little brad on the outside of the page up there, because I definitely want more weight on the bottom of the page. And you'll be able to see that later as you start seeing all of these brads go in. So I've pulled out a couple different colors of brads. I have my greens, my teals, my blues. I also end up pulling black and white ones out as well, just to give it a little bit more interest. There's like a couple more options I can have while I'm using them. Now, I thought I was just gonna like obliterate my stash of these brads doing this project, and I probably would have used a lot more if I went with my original plan and filled all of the circles. But I decided that I liked it the way it was, and I didn't need to fill any more. But wow, I still have a whole heck of a lot of brads left. I mean, like a whole heck of a lot. Does anyone else still have their brads? I know I had talked about brads before. I still like them. I especially like the ones that come in collections where they're all themed and they're on a cardboard backer sheet and they just go great color matching wise. But these little guys that live in the little plastic containers, they don't get pulled out very often. Not often enough. So this definitely has revitalized my love for the brads, and no need to hoard them for a rainy day. They are ready to be used. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm trying to balance out colors and sizes. So I don't want too many of the same color, and I don't want too many of the same size together. Now, there are times where I double up, where I might have two of the same color right next to each other, or two of the same that's really close in color right next to each other. But I don't want to end up doing this and having like 4 or 5 white brads and 1 green and 1 blue. I want it to balance it out just a little bit. And that's all I'm doing, is going through and thinking like what I want to do. Now, I did limit myself to one shape, and that is a flower shape. And even though I have those in different colors on the page, it is just the one shape. So every other brad on here is round. And then there it is. I did not make you guys watch me poke holes and put brads in every single little bit of this layout, but I am going to leave this little bit here at the end. So there it is. I got that last little tiny white brad on there. And then I decided that I felt like these 2 white, big white circles that haven't had anything filled in on them needed a little bit of something else, especially this one up here with the 25. So I decided to use my Muji pen and just do messy scribbles around the outside of it, and also where the wings are. And that just mimics the cut file and what's going on there already. And it just gives it a little bit more weight and a little bit of something that felt like was missing. Now look at that backside. That is a huge amount of brads. So on the back of this layout, it is completely just covered in washi tape to cover up those brad tines that are going through. There are so many of them. I actually thought about matting this one on another sheet of cardstock, but honestly, I felt like that was going to add more weight to the layout than just the washi tape. And I'm trying to wrap up this year, so I didn't need to add a whole bunch of weight. So I'm just putting some journaling on there, and then that is going to wrap it up for this. Big thanks to the Scrappy Sisters for inviting me to play along for their Scrap September series this month, and be sure to head over to their channel. The link is down below, and I will catch you guys real soon.